Hi, in this video, I will show you how to automate web tables. So first, let's define what is a web table. A web table is basically like a table that we see in other applications such as Excel, right? So the data is represented, the data is shown in forms of the rows and columns. So a table, usually, how can you recognize a table in HTML? This is represented by the table tag. So table tag, meaning whenever you see um, table tag name in your web page, it means that there is a table. And within the table header is represented by th tag, and table row is represented by tr tag, and also the table column is represented by td tag. All right, so basically there are three properties of a table of HTML, right? th tag, that's for table header, and then table rows with the tr, and table column with a td. Now there are two types of table, static table and dynamic table. So a static table, the number of the rows and columns are all static. It doesn't change. They are the same. Dynamic, as the name implies, the table grows. The table grows. The number of the rows and the number of the rows and column keep changing. That's what we refer to as a web table. So, and now in this tutorial, we will be concerned about how to handle the web table, dynamic web table, right? The table that keep changing. So how can you handle the web table? In most cases, you use an Xpath, relative Xpath, especially Xpath access, like parent, child, to handle the Xpath web tables and HTML page. All right, so let's actually jump to IDE, and I will show you some example that how you can manage a web table. There are some general tasks that we will do in this tutorial. So let's me call this web table, and so of course we are going to do this with the help of TestNG. I will be using TestNG along with the Selenium to complete this task in this tutorial. Okay, so these are the parts of that I'm gonna copy these, so I'm not writing this, typing this. Okay, so let me actually take care of this error. See what's going on here. All right. Okay, there you go. And what else we need to do? We need to take care of this as well. So let's see that. What's going on here? Util, copy that, and going to the web table, right? So let me actually paste it. And wait, I'm gonna add 4 seconds. All right, so this is the setup. This is the before method and after method. If you don't know about this, it basically before method and after method will be executed for every test cases, right? For every test cases, and I'm gonna show you how. So let's first start with the one of the test cases. Let's say that, let's go to the website actually first, and all right, so this would be the website that I'll be using in this tutorial. Okay, all right, so let's actually work with this table, right? Let's see how we can do this. All right, so let's say that here and here we have a table, right? We have an ID and this is the table. So how we can, as I told you, as I said earlier, we will be using Xpath to handle the table, right? So let's say table, we have two table, 1, 2, right? So I'm gonna select the first one. I'm gonna use the index to select the first one. And then I need to move to the table, right? This is table, and I need to move to the table head. This is the table head. And we have table body, right? So in order to access this item, I need to move to the table body. No, excuse me, table body. All right, so this is table body, and then I'm gonna move to the what? You see that table rows? TR is for the rows, right? And then I'm gonna move to the TD. All right, so this is basically shows that there are 24 cells, right? 24 cells in this data. And now if you want to print all the data in this table, we can copy this element, right? Because you see that it has the 24, all the elements in this table. So let's actually print all the elements from the table. How we can do that? So let me actually create a test and test in G. And I'm gonna call this public void. Let's say print entire table data, right? So that's it. And now what we can do is, because this is a collection of data, we are going to store that, right? All table data and driver dot finds elements. Then we can say Xpath, right? So let me actually get rid of this. All right, so this is the element that we find using the Xpath. And right now we want to print all the data, right? So how we can do that? We can use a for each loop, right? We can use a for each loop. And so the type of data is web element. And I'm going to name this as, let's say, sales data, right? And then we're going to pass our list. And now we can do whatever we wish to do with this. Let's say that I want a sales data that goes through each cell, and I want to get the text. Okay. All right. So let's run this. We want to print the entire data, right? Okay, let's open up the website. And that's it. All right, so let's see. Okay, so as you see, there are the table, all the cells, all the data from the table has been printed, right? Okay, so let's do something else. Let's let's actually do print find, or we can say find column and row size. So if you want to find a column and row size in dynamic table, the table that the rows and column keep changing, it's not static, it's dynamic. How we can do that, right? So how we can do that? So let's go to our website again, and let's actually do that again. So first, if you want to find the number of the rows, right? For example, how many rows do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. This doesn't count because this is the table header, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. How we can do that? So in that case, you can do, let's actually find table. As I said, we have two tables. We have to use the bracket to select the first table, right? So now we select the first table, and then we need to go to the table body because we need to go to the table body. If you're not in the body, we cannot access this, right? So after that, what we can do, we can say TR, right? Now this one shows all the TR. You see that? It shows all the TR. And if you want to find out the number of the rows, now you don't specify the index tag for the row. You don't specify the index tag for the row, but you need to specify index tags for the column. For example, let's say that it doesn't matter which column you select. For example, I say column 3, right? So now I want to find the number of the rows from column 3. How many rows are there in column 3? Whenever you want to find the number of the rows, here you see that this is a rows. You don't specify any tag. Just leave it alone, because if you specify, then it doesn't move, right? You only specify the column, and then it goes through. You see that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? In that case, it moves around the rows. All right, so I'm gonna copy that, and let's go again, put that into the web element, because this is a collection of the element, right? And I can say row size. Then you can say find by element Xpath, and let's print this, and paste this. Okay, and right now, if I want to find the number of the rows, how I can do that? I can say, for example, let's say row size, right? And I'm going to, and you can say row dot size, and use the size method. All right. So as you know, we need to also, when it comes to TSNG, we need to perform some type of assertion, right? Because without the assertion, the test case is useless. All right. So let's actually use some assertion here, and I say, so I already know the number of the rows, right? It's 4, and then I say, then what I can say that row size dot size, and I use the size method. Now this method is supposed to pass. All right, so let's actually before run this, and also let's find the number of the column. Suppose that this table is keep changing, right? And you want to find the number of the column. So how we can do that? You can say again, I'm going to select the first table. I'm going to say table headers, and now I can say table row. And whenever you find the number of the columns, you have to specify one row. It doesn't matter which row, you have to specify that, right? And TD, all right? So you see that now when we are looking for the number of the column, we don't specify index for it. We have to leave it alone, all right? So let's copy that and go to, let's say over here, I'm gonna find this, let's say column size, right? So I will find elements. What we can do is, let's print that. All right, paste that. I keep saying print. So what's going on here by Xpath? What did I do? What's the error? List, yes. Sorry, my bad. I need because this is a list, it's supposed to be in the list. All right. So right now, first, actually, let's print this. We can say column size, right? And now column size dot size, and we use the size method to get the number of the elements. And now also let's perform some assertion. And as I said, there are 6 rows, and also we need to get it from the table, right? And I say size. All right, so now we successfully identify both elements, and now let's run the code, okay? There you go. So the test passed, and there are 4 rows and column 6 column, right? All right. So this is how we find the number of the rows and column, okay? And let's continue doing more tests. Let's say that public void, and this time I want to print data. Let's say only from column, right? Only from column. And okay, so I want to print the data from a specific column, right? From a specific column. How we can do that, okay? So if you want to print data from a specific column, then in that case, let's again, table 1, table body. And now we need to do what? We need to say table row. We don't specify the row because it needs to go over the row, right? And let's say what column we want to print the data. We want to print the data from the first column, right? From the first column. So in that case, you see, that's the reason that we don't specify. If you look at the row is not specified, right? But TD, the column, we specify which column. Okay, now this is the one that we want to print, right? You see that it goes over the column. All right. So what we need to do is, again, let's copy that and go back to IntelliJ. Okay. Again, we are going to use the list web element, right? And we can say that let's put a name data from column, right? Find elements, Xpath, and let's print it and paste it. And then what we can do again, after we print it, we can print this, right? So in order to print this, we can use a for each loop, right? So let's use a for each loop. It is the data type is web element, and let's call this E, whatever name you want to put here. And this is our list. And let's print the data, right? E dot. Again, we're going to use the get text method. Okay. All right. So let's run this. Okay. So this is the data that we just got, right? This is the data that we just got. All right. So let's now we need to perform some sort of assertion for this one too, right? So how we can do that if we want to perform assertion? First of all, let's actually copy all this data, right? So let's put them in a, for example, let's put them in a list of string because we want to perform some sort of assertion. And we can say that let's call this expect, right? And now we are going to use arrays as a list, right? So what is the first one? The first one is Smith, and then we have back. All right, I don't know how to pronounce that name. And then we have Doe, and the last one we have Conway, right? Conway. All right. So this is how we select that name. And now what we need to do is let's actually write a method to. So I'm going to my browser utilities. Okay. Here I would like to write a method to like a static method. We are going to write a static method to do what? Okay, so let's say that we want to write a method that returns the text from a column. All right. So how we can write a method? Let's call this method as a static method. And the return type is going to be what? List string. Okay. And now we can call it, for example, get text from column, right? Get text from, let's call this web element. Web elements, and inside I'm gonna pass as a web element, okay? Web element, and then I'm gonna call this elements. All right, so this is the method that we are gonna use, and what I need to do is use the bracket, and I'm gonna add another list, okay? I'm gonna add another list as a string. Let's call this a text value and a new array list, okay? All right, so now what we need to do, we need to write a for each loop. and this is web elements, and I'm gonna call this let's say E, whatever name you want to put. We are gonna pass this one, right? Elements. And now when I get the text from these elements, what I want to do, I want to add the text that I'm getting from this element, I want to add to this list, right? I want to add it. I want to add to this list. How can I do that? I can say text dot add, and I had the value, right? I had the value, and I can say elements. Sorry, I can say e dot get text. All right, so now I get all the text from that this element when it pass, and after I store that in this string, in this list of string, and then what I need to do, I need to return that, right? I need to return that. All right, so now this is the method. What's going on here? Missing return statement. So what's okay. All right, so now this is the method that we are going to use. So let's say that this method basically gets a collection of the elements, get a collection of the elements, then add this element as a text to this list, and then return the list, right? Return type is a list, and then return the list. Okay, so if you want to perform some sorts of assertion, we can say that, let's say, after we print it, we can say assert dot, oops, assert equals, and now what we want to do, we want to assert two lists, right? So here I'm gonna call my method from that I just wrote it, right? The method I just developed, and it's a get text from the web element, right? So now we need to pass our element. We need to pass this data from column, and then what we need to do, we're gonna compare that with the expect, right? So we just pass this element to the method that we just developed. So as I told you, this method returns the string of all the columns, data from column, and it's gonna compare to this one, okay? So let's run this and see that if we pass it. All right, so the test passed, and also it's a good idea to break something intentionally and see that if the test pass. Okay, so for example, I'm gonna delete this S from Smith, and now it's supposed to fail, right? Because it's supposed to fail now. Okay, now it's failed, and if you look at it, it say that expected is Smith. This is the one, but this is the value that we are looking for, right? So again, let's add the Smith and run it. All right, so the test passed now. Okay, let's continue doing more test scenario. So let's say that this time I want to print data from row, right? So how we can do that? This is also pretty straightforward. Did I misspell this? All right, so if you want to print the data from the row, let's do that a little quick. We don't need to delete all these. We're already in the table body, right? So we are already in the table body, and we are going to table row. So which row we want to print the data, for example, from row 1, right? And then we don't specify the TD, right? Then we're going to specify the TD so that it iterates. It goes over every single column. All right. So let's say that we want to print the data from the first row. and copy that. Go back to IntelliJ. Again, we are going to use a list of web element, right? And I'm going to call this data from row. So I will find elements. And what is that? Xpath. Paste this. And right now, again, I want to print, right? So type of data is web element. Now, whatever name is, for example, let's call whatever name you want to put in here. And then we are going to pass this web element list. And now what we want to do, we want to print, right? So now it's supposed to print the first element. The first row. All right, so it printed the first row, Smith, John, and this is the email and edit and delete, right? So what was the first row? Smith, John, email, and delete. All right, so and let's do more test cases. So let's say that what else I want to do? I want to delete one of this row, but I want to delete based on the email. For example, based on this email, I want to delete, right? I want to delete a row based on the value of the email. For example, I say that first find this email and then delete this row. How we can do that, right? So how we can do this? Again, we are going to use, of course, we are going to use Xpath. And if I want to find out, let's go to the table 1, right? We want table 1. And we want to go to the body. And once you go through the body, we want to go to the TD. TD is the column, right? The cells. We are inside all the column. Now I can say, for example, I can see it's Xpath, and I'm going to use a text, right? So now what we need to do, we need to find this one, right? Double click to copy that and paste it, okay? Then use the X and all right there. So let's see what's going on here. We are using text. What did I forget here? Oops, yeah, it's not supposed to be here, right? All right. So now let's say that we find this email, right? We find this email, and what I'm gonna do, because I'm gonna need that later on, I am going to just store this email. Okay, so this is the email that we find. Now, how can I go to, then how can I go to delete, right? How can I go from here to delete so that I can delete based on this email, right? So what you can do here now let's see that. We are gonna say delete, right? So delete is here, and this is here, right? This is here, and we need to go down. This is the sibling. This is the sibling of this email, right? So how we can go down? How we can go down? It's pretty easy, right? So we can say that. Let's say following sibling, right? And then we can say TD. So there are 3 TD, right? We can say TD3. Now we're on TD3. And then we can say A. There are 2A, right? 2A, which is the link. And we can say, then again, we are going to use the index. And number 2. What is wrong? Number 2. Okay, now we find this element. Okay. All right, so I just want to extend that so that you guys can see. All right, so this is the email, the delete based on the email. All right, so let's copy that. And what we need to do, we need to store this, right? we need to all right, so let's actually write our method, right? Let's write our method and set text and public void, let's say delete row based on email, okay? Based on email. And let's store this element, delete, find element, and then we can say Xpath, and let's print this, paste this, keep saying print. All right, now that we delete, okay, what we need to do is we just click on the button, right? We click on the button to delete it. What we can do, we can say that delete dot click. That's it. Then we are gonna delete this. All right. So after we delete this, again, we want to perform some sort of assertion. So if you want to know that if the element exists on a web page or not, what we can do, we can use this method, right? So let's say that we are gonna say email existence. We want to test the existence of the email, and I can say driver.find element, and then I can say by Xpath. And if you remember, I already copied this parts of the email, right? This parts of the email. So let's see. And I'm gonna paste it over here, right? Okay, so after I paste it, and we see that what's going on with this. Cast to Java list ops. I think we made a mistake. But this is a list. List the web element. What's going on here? Driver find element by Xpath. Let's actually write this again, okay? Just to make sure that I did everything right. All right, so let's do that again. List, right? List the web element. I'm gonna call this email. And let's say that driver.find element by Xpath and paste that value. All right. So it seems that I think I know what's going on. We need to use this one too, because we need to use the find elements instead of the element. Okay. All right. So now we can perform some sort of assertion, right? We can say that assert equal, and now after this element has been deleted, it's supposed to be 0, right? And then we are going to get the size of the email. So after this element, we click on it. After we click on this email, it's supposed to be 0 on the page, right? And let's run it again. So the test failed. So let's see what's going on here now. Okay, so still there's 1 and it's not actually 0. So let's see what's the problem here. If I delete this, does it delete? So I think the issue is that this is not actually working. That's the reason that's failed. Okay, that's the reason that it's failing. So if you, let's say if you put this 1 actual, and then all right, this is pass. So the reason is that it's not working actually. The delete button is not working to make the element 0, right? The element is still 1. All right, so let's do one more case here, and this one is actually returned data based on row and column. Okay, so now in this scenario, you want to return specific cells, right? And you want to give what you want to do. You want to give specific number of the row and column, and you want to return that data. Let's say that I want to return from row 3, right? 1, 2, 3, row 3 and column 3, and I want to return this jdo@gmail.com. How we can do that? Okay, so let's go to inspect. Then I'm gonna hit Control F. All right, so how we can do that? We can say table, and I'm gonna of course table 1, table body, tr. Okay, you can say tr, and we can say td, right? td. So right now, as I said, we use this bracket to specify the index, right? I can say row 3, okay, and column 3, right? So row 3 and column 3 is here, and then I can copy this. So this is how we can find it, and I can say that web elements, let's call this whatever, cells data, okay, and then we're going to use driver by Xpath and print this. All right, so now after we print this, what we want to do first of all, let's actually print this cells.getText, and we want to perform an assertion, right? We want to perform assertion, but let me actually get the actual data. So what's the actual? This is the actual, right? This is the one that we are looking for. So double click to copy that. Now let's paste it. All right, so this is the data that this is the actual, and then expected we are going to get from the application, right? Cells data dot get text. Okay, and we need to have the colon here, and now let's run it. Okay, so the test passed. All right, and now let's say that if you want to write a method, to return the cells data based on the row and column. How we can do that, right? So let's say that I want to write a method, and I can say row num, right? Row num, and I'm gonna equal this to 4, right? And then I can say that column number is equal to 4. Okay, so how I can, let's column 5 to make it a little bit so how I can write a method if I want to write a method. So in this case, you can come here and add double quotes, and you can pass your row number. You can say row number, and then the same thing here. You can add column now. So now this is dynamic, right? Now you can pass your parameter. For example, you can write a method with 2 parameters, right? You can say row and column. So now we can say row 4, okay? Row 4, let's see that. So row 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and column 5. Column 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is supposed to be the value, right? So this is supposed to be the value if I'm right. Let's do another assertion. Okay, do another assertion and paste this row 4 and column 5. Let's run it. All right, so this is a pass, right? And this is how you can return the data from a specific row and column. And if you want to make it dynamic so that you can pass the parameter, just to make sure that this is working, let's actually delete some of this part. Intentionally, I changed the value to just make sure that our test case works, right? This time it's supposed to fail. Supposed to fail. All right, so now it fails, and if you go and see that what's going on and tell us that, okay, so this is the value expected, and that comes from the application, but this one is the actual, so they don't match. So what we can do, again, we can type in H, and now it's supposed to pass, right? So that's it. I think this is about how you manage the dynamic web table and HTML page. Um, okay, that is pass, and I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I will see you in the next one.